The Star Wars comics recently gave us the long-awaited birth of Rogue Squadron in a story that has been building for nearly a year. Luke first learned about the members of Rogue One and how they stole the Death Star plans when he, Han, and Leia visited what was left of Jedha to help the Resistance there. Luke was inspired by their story and the sacrifices that led to his ability to make that shot that blew up the battle station. Meanwhile, Leia fought against Queen Trios of the industrial world Shu-Torun, who was forced into helping the Empire mine more kyber crystals from the dying moon. Trios defected to the rebellion and offered herself as a spy while she continued to work for the enemy. As Leia and the others worked to gain the support of the Mon Calamari people, Trios offered intelligence and supplies to outfit the growing rebel fleet. When the Mon Cala Navy officially joined the Alliance, their ships were outfitted with advanced technology from Shu-Torun, but it was then that Trios revealed her duplicity. The location of the fleet was provided to the Empire, and every ship was remotely disabled thanks to the Queen's quote-unquote improvements. When Darth Vader and his Star Destroyers jumped into the system, every member of the Rebel Alliance was vulnerable to attack. In addition, the hangar doors were locked shut, leaving Luke Skywalker, Wedge Antilles, Zev Senesca, Hobby Clivian, and more pilots stuck inside and powerless to help. That is, until Leia discovered a possible flaw in Trios' plan. A safety measure in the hangar doors meant that, theoretically, if an object flew directly at them, they would open to avoid a collision. With no other way to test the idea, Luke immediately got into his X-Wing, flew at the doors, and remembered how Jyn Erso and the rest of Rogue One were forced to take every chance they could until the chances were spent. The doors opened and starfighters were able to join the fight. When Wedge requested a call sign, Luke announced that they would be known as Rogue Squadron. So we now have official confirmation that the famed Rebel Squadron was named after Jyn and her team. That was something Star Wars fans had pretty much assumed since the title for that film was announced back in 2015. Even though it felt like a given, I really appreciate the way Kieran Gillen has built up to this moment. It wasn't a throwaway, it was a moment of significance and honor for those that gave their lives. We got to see Luke learn about everything that happened on Scarif for 6 issues. We got to watch the Rebel Alliance grow, but find themselves in a desperate situation where, thematically, they would be forced to take chances and make sacrifices yet again. Compare that to Star Wars Legends, where the squadron just kind of formed shortly after the Battle of Yavin, and the name was just chosen, I guess, because it sounded cool. So if we're comparing the origin of Rogue Squadron between canon and Legends, I think canon wins. That's great at all, but what I'm hoping is that we'll now come to see more stories about Rogue Squadron. Legends definitely has canon beat there. I've praised the X-Wing books over and over again as some of my favorite Star Wars books of all time. I hope we can eventually have that same level of storytelling as the new canon continues to be fleshed out. It's kind of funny how we develop these fandoms around things within a fandom. It makes sense that in Legends, Rogue Squadron would just become a name, because that's all it was in The Empire Strikes Back. So Legends just bridged that gap, and the name was made up out of nowhere, and even then I don't think people really fell in love with the ace pilots until the books and the comics and video games. I love Rogue Squadron mostly because of the old EU, not because of the one movie where they originally appeared. When the canon reset, all the stories that made Rogue Squadron so important were wiped away, but the Rogues still mean a lot to us, or at least to me. So even though I've been impatient waiting for stories about pilots, I at least appreciate the time it's taken to give Rogue Squadron a significant, honorable, and important origin story. So now let's just cross our fingers and hope that they continue to show up, and also bring back Gavin Darklighter. Okay, thanks. But what do you guys think of the origin of the Rogues? Are you happy they're named after Rogue One? Do you hope we see more of them in the future? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.